Hey guys, my name is Matsumiao, and welcome to our episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for today comes from Liam, and it is, what do you think about an operator in Siege that can throw an impact grenade, and when it explodes, it releases a hardening foam that can act as cover or block a doorway or area? Now that has the potential to actually be a really fun new operator to play around with. How often has offense pushed really hard at the start? Let's say Ashe rushes, she uses her grenade launcher to open up a hole in the wall, she pushes on in, you take her out, but now you have this other angle that you have to worry about if any other one's coming through there. Well, what if you had this guy who could just kind of throw this foam grenade? I know that sounds ridiculous. I don't know how realistic it is. Throw this foam, it then seals up that hole really quickly, and now offense has to blow it up again if they want to have that access route. That sounds really cool. Or let's say Buck is above the objective. He's using his shotgun to kind of open up the area. Well, what if you're like, no, I don't want to deal with that anymore. You throw this impact grenade and it seals up all those holes. Now, he could use his shotgun again to just open them on up, but it slows down his progress. It slows down the enemy. You could even take it a step further. Let's say Montaigne is pushing into your room. You know, he's got a lot of buddies in the other room adjacent to it. Well, instead of having to deal with them alongside the Monty, you could throw this grenade, create a barricade in that doorway that he just came from, and now he's separated from everyone else, making him a lot easier to deal with. And so I think the reason why I like this idea so much is that he just brings a lot of utility. Sometimes on defense, it can become pure chaos because offense has opened up every hatch, they've opened up every wall, and there's too many angles for you to cover, so it becomes a bit overwhelming. Well, what if this guy swooped on in and started patching up all these holes? You don't want to deal with that hatch flanking route anymore? Well, just kind of throw this up and seal it off. You don't want to deal with that large hole that's on the side of the objective? Throw it on over there and deny that access routes. And while offense could deal with it by using a breaching charge or Sledge's hammer, for example, it doesn't completely reinforce it. They're not always locked out, but it does give defense at least a tool to deal with the large amount of destruction that does happen in this game. Now, the one problem that Ubisoft might run into, though, when they're developing someone like this, is how do they ensure that he's not a buggy, glitchy mess? What if you have an offensive operator that's in the middle of a destroyed wall? You throw this thing down, the foam activates. Do they take damage? Do they get teleported from one side to the other? Is there some sort of animation that causes the foam to build on up? Is it just completely instant? How does all of that work? Like, I have a feeling that could be a bit janky. And so as long as Ubisoft is able to work around these problems, I really like the idea of this operator. It brings more utility to the defensive team. It's kind of the opposite of destruction, which we're all comfortable with. It brings in a completely different dynamic, and I think this could be a really interesting idea for Ubisoft to explore. The next question comes from Levi, and it is, what do you think about an operator in Rainbow Six Siege who has a deployable shield that she can see through like Mira? She would have two of them, and they would be wider than normal, so they can't be placed in doorways. Well, this definitely would be a very big upgrade to the normal deployable shields, and one thing I like about it is that it would give defense another tool in their belt to actually hunker down and play defensive. This is one great thing I love about Mira. We've talked about this in past Sunday mailboxes, but her gadget essentially allows defense to establish a foothold and basically counter offense from pushing from one side of the map. Mira is an incredibly powerful operator, and she really changed up the meta, and I have a feeling that this deployable shield operator would also have that same effect. That said though, my one issue with her though is that she might be a bit too powerful, especially if you paired her with other operators like Mira. Now, you say that the shield itself is larger than the normal one so that it can't be placed in a doorway, and that seems reasonable, but what if you place the shield behind the doorway in the hallway? Now, if the enemy rounds the corner and they see the shield, yeah, they can walk through the doorway, but that's not gonna matter because they're not gonna be able to walk anywhere near that flanking route or get through that area because of the shield. If anyone is defending from that location, all they have to do is pop up really quickly when you make your way down the hallway, shoot you in the face, and then duck on down. There's no way you're gonna be able to retaliate that quickly. With Peeker's advantage and everything else going on, they're gonna pop up, instantly take you out, and then duck for cover. And while you could maybe throw a grenade, or you could use Ashe's breaching charge to take out her gadget, that might work, but if defense has thought about this, they're gonna place a Jaeger device near it or around that area, and it's gonna snag that grenade out of the sky. Now, I realize I sort of just described what Mira accomplishes. She does that exact same thing, but the thing about Mira is that her gadget requires her to place it on a wall. She's restricted by that. This new operator doesn't have that restriction, and it's a lot more versatile. She can place it basically anywhere she wants as long as it's large enough. Place it in a hallway, place it on the objective, and because of that, I feel like it pushes things too far. Imagine fighting her alongside a Mira. She places this in 2 different hallways, locking those down. Mira locks down another wall. How in the world is offense going to get anywhere near that objective room? I don't want it to get to the point where defense can always see the attacking side operators while offense is struggling to figure out where defense is because of these two-way mirrors. And while I know I'm a bit hypocritical because I like the addition of Mira, I think by adding someone else that's very similar like this, but also a bit more versatile, pushes things into the overpowered category, and I don't know if that would make for the most enjoyable gameplay experience. The next question comes from Josh, and it is, how would you feel about Pulse getting back quick change to his primary weapon or having more range to his heartbeat sensor? I think one of these would make him a better operator without overpowering him, unlike his god tier days. Well, what you just described were the reasons why Pulse was overpowered. The fact that he could switch between his gadget to his primary instantaneously. The fact that he had extended range on his gadget. And while it's not the only reason, shotguns back in the day were overpowered. Every single one of them. It was disgusting. There was a shotgun meta, offense and defense were using them, they were insane. And the fact that Pulse could use it just was the cherry on top, alongside everything else. And so while shotguns have gotten nerfed, I don't think he needs any more adjustments. Now, I could be in the minority here. Many of you might think that he's a bit underpowered, but I just don't think that he needs any more buffs. I don't like the concept of Pulse to begin with, so I may not be the right guy to ask this question, because I never really liked the idea of Pulse to begin with. Someone who can see through walls in a game that has this much destruction has always rubbed me the wrong way. I mean, how often have you died to a Pulse that was kind of out of your control? I mean, sure, you could have known he was there, but if you don't have an IQ to directly counter him, it's kind of a flip of the coin if he is in that area. I'm sure you guys have died over and over from a Pulse that just jumped out of a window because you went into a drone and you weren't expecting it, or he just shot through a wall and got a lucky headshot against you because he was able to take advantage of his gadgets. And so all in all, I think Ubisoft has done a good job of balancing this guy out. I know that my views might be a bit extreme. I may not like him from the very core of my being, but I do think that they've done a good job with him. He's very powerful in the right hands. He definitely gets the job done, but I don't think that he needs any more upgrades to make him more powerful. The next question is, do you think that Bandit should be able to electrify frost traps in Siege? I will fully admit the first time I read this question, I thought it was stupid because I couldn't grasp the concept of why you would want to use your Bandit battery to electrify a frost trap. I mean, the battery is meant for basically destroying gadgets. You want to use this on a reinforced wall so they can't get through it. Stuff to that nature. Why would you want to use this on a frost mat? Then I thought about it for a minute, realized that I'm actually the idiot here, because if this combo is possible, anyone that gets downed by the frost trap is then going to slowly die to the battery and its damage. You wouldn't necessarily need to remember where your frost traps are located or leave yourself exposed when you go on over to confirm the kill. How many times have you lost a kill because the enemy was able to cover their teammates while they got the revive on up? That actually probably happens more often than you actually get the kill with the frost trap itself. And while it still has its advantage because you got the enemy down to 50%, like there's a lot to that, a lot of the times you don't get that kill because of that very reason. And so if this combo was possible, you wouldn't need to worry about that anymore. And so conceptually, this doesn't sound all that bad. And honestly, I would not be opposed if Ubisoft added this capability to the Bandit trick. Like, I don't think that this would actually be a negative. It would add in a different dynamic to the game, and I'd be okay with that. In the long run, though, I don't see this being all that useful. At the end of the day, you want to use his batteries to help reinforce walls. Like, that's what he's all about. And honestly, this would just make the frost traps even more obvious. I mean, frost traps, as long as you're looking for them, are pretty apparent, and if there was a gigantic battery that was sitting directly next to it, that would make it even more obvious. And so I think this would result in a lot of funny moments where you kill your enemy with the battery, which happens very infrequently. That would be awesome. I think in the long run, it probably wouldn't change the dynamic of the game all that much, and while I wouldn't be opposed if they actually added this dynamic, I don't think it's really all that necessary. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on what we discussed in today's video. Do you like the idea of having a foam grenade operator add into Rainbow Six Siege? Do you think that's the worst idea ever? Let me know down below in the comments. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.